House and Senate Democrats have consistently made clear that we will sit down with anyone at any time and at any place, either here at the Capitol or over at the White House, to reopen the government, to enact a bipartisan spending agreement that actually meets the needs of the American people. Well, the White House has gone radio silent since the Oval Office meeting last Monday, and neither Leader Schumer or myself have heard a word from the administration about resolving this issue. They don't want to defend their position privately. This is Republicans, extreme MAGA Republicans, and they don't want to defend their position publicly because their position related to gutting the health care of the American people and shutting down the government is indefensible. House and Senate Democrats have consistently made clear that we will sit down with anyone at any time and at any place, either here at the Capitol or over at the White House, to reopen the government, to enact a bipartisan spending agreement that actually meets the needs of the American people, and to address the Republican health care crisis. We need House Republicans to actually get serious about engaging in a bipartisan conversation that is designed to find the common ground necessary to address the issues of importance to the American people, which include the high cost of living in the United States of America. This country is far too expensive, and Republican policies have made it worse. And the Republican health care crisis that is devastating people all across the country, in urban America, in rural America, in small town America, in working class America, in the heartland of America, and in black and brown communities all across the United States of America. The largest cut to Medicaid in American history because of the Republican one big ugly bill, setting in motion a $536 billion cut to Medicare if Congress doesn't act by the end of this year. Because of the Republican refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, premiums, copays, and deductibles for tens of millions of Americans are skyrocketing all across the country in a manner that will deprive people of health insurance or lead to medical bankruptcy. We know hospitals and nursing homes and community-based health clinics all across the country, including in rural America, are closing because of the Republican health care crisis. And they've effectively ended medical research in the United States of America. This is a crisis that requires urgent action now. And Leader Schumer and myself have repeatedly made clear to the White House and to Republicans here on Capitol Hill that we're ready to sit down to work things out, but it has to be done in a way that actually improves the quality of life of the American people and doesn't continue to undermine it, which is what Republicans have done all year, hurting everyday Americans in order to reward their billionaire donors.
Have you had any conversations as of late with the president or the White House, and B, what do you make of his willingness maybe to strike a deal here?
Well, the White House has gone radio silent since the Oval Office meeting last Monday, and neither Leader Schumer or myself have heard a word from the administration about resolving this issue, making clear to us that the White House wanted to shut the government down, to continue the chaos that they've been inflicting on the American people since day one of this presidency. It's an interesting statement that the president has made, and I think both House and Senate Democrats are clear. We'll sit down anytime, any place with anyone from your administration, including the president, to get a resolution here with respect to the Affordable Care Act tax credits, which need to be extended right now, as well as dealing with and addressing the Republican health care crisis that is devastating everyday Americans all across the country.
Leader, you challenged Speaker Johnson to a floor debate this morning. He responded that it was a desperate plea for attention. How do you answer that response from the Speaker to your challenge to debate him on the House floor in prime time?
Well, Mike Johnson and I, have a very open and candid and forward-looking relationship, and that will continue. But for the life of me, I can't understand. They don't want to defend their position privately. This is Republicans, extreme MAGA Republicans, and they don't want to defend their position publicly because their position related to gutting the health care of the American people and shutting down the government is indefensible. And we continue to give them every opportunity, every single opportunity, to explain themselves to the American people. Yet Republicans are on the run. That's why they're on vacation right now. That's why votes were canceled last week by Republicans in the House, and votes have been canceled this week. We're in the middle of a shutdown and a chaotic presidency that begun on January 20th and continues. This is a cost of living crisis that the American people are confronting. Donald Trump promised that costs would go down on day one. Republicans promised that costs would go down on day one. Costs haven't gone down, they've gone up. America's become far too expensive. Inflation is on the way up. Electricity bills skyrocketing through the roof. Grocery costs out of control. Housing costs getting more and more expensive. And now Republicans are setting in motion the fact that housing and health care and grocery prices and all of the day-to-day expenses that the American people experience is not going to get better, it's going to get worse. And this healthcare crisis is exacerbating that.
Leader Jeffries.
Yep, back.
Sorry, I had to wear my heels today.
Okay, I see you.
There was a new poll out today from CBS News. It was a CBS News and YouGov poll, and it basically says that Americans, by and large, pretty much evenly distribute blame on Republicans, Democrats, and then 30% blame both of you guys. Why do you think that they're not blaming Republicans far more the way that you are?
The overwhelming balance of public sentiment clearly is that Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. Republicans have shut the government down. They've shut the government down because of their refusal to address the health care crisis that they've created. We're standing on the side of the health care of everyday Americans, working class Americans, middle class Americans, and hardworking American taxpayers, and we're going to continue to stand on their side because this issue matters. Lowering the cost of living matters. Making sure that the high price of health care doesn't continue to escalate in ways that's going to bankrupt people, that matters. That's why we're in this fight until we win this fight.
What do you make, though, of the president's comments today? What does that signal to you?
I think it signals the fact that Democrats have been talking about health care, and health care for the last several weeks. Republicans initially claimed that Democrats were not serious. We are very serious about the issue of improving the quality of life of the American people, about canceling the cuts, lowering the costs, and saving health care. Very serious about it. And we've made that clear from the beginning. And now it appears that President Trump, the administration, even House Republicans, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, acknowledge that this isn't a fake issue, that we actually need to deal with the health care of the American people, the skyrocketing health insurance costs, the fact that Republicans have broken our health care system, including the largest cut to Medicaid in American history, and they did it so they could reward their billionaire donors with massive tax breaks. By the way, Republicans enacted permanent tax breaks for the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected in the United States of America. Permanent tax breaks. And now the nerve of these people to say to us that we don't have the time or inclination to address the Affordable Care Act tax credits for working class Americans and can't be bothered to extend them at all. And certainly have taken a position that there's no circumstance where we will extend them permanently. This is because Republicans have very different priorities than we do. And our priorities as Democrats, House Democrats and Senate Democrats, will continue to be standing up for working class Americans, middle class Americans, and everyday Americans who need us to fight for their health care. And we're in this fight until we win this fight on their behalf.